welcome to 310 to Left, presented by your New England Ford Dealers and F-Series, America's best-selling truck for 49 years, and the official truck of the Boston Red Sox. Tom, Caron, JP, Ricciardi, Rob Bradford with you. The day after the trade deadline has come and gone, and it was a busy one for the Red Sox. Rutschman, the big move, Eli White, Eric Miller, the other side moves. Let's begin with the big fish, Rutschman. How big a coup was this for Breslow?
I think it was a great coup. Like we said, you always want to build your club from the spine out. Now you've got a quality catcher, not only a quality catcher, a switch hitting catcher, a bat to add to this lineup. Guy who's going to settle down the pitching staff, be a leader. Great move. That
was the big story of the day. We're going to look back at our coverage of that. But let's talk about the other two moves real quick. Eric Miller coming in from San Francisco, the last deal of the day. A lefty reliever under control for a while. Really good numbers this year. But it comes at the cost of Marcelo Meyer, which I don't think in the now is that big a shock. But if you pull back and look at him being drafted, him coming up through the system, kind of a shocking end to the Marcelo Meyer time in Boston.
Yeah, a couple different conversations with this move. Number one, you got a guy that is the microcosm of what they focused on, which is winning the World Series or being a World Series team. This guy undeniably has helped them. He's a lot of swings and misses. He has a lot of control also. He's not an old guy. So they have a guy who is going to help them back in the bullpen. There's no question about it. But the other part of that, which we cannot ignore, was the Marcelo Meyer leaving town. And we've talked a lot about how this guy was set in the crosshairs of all the fan base for so many years, starting when he was drafted 4th overall, 2021. And now we've landed with getting a lefty reliever. It is shocking. I think a lot of people felt that way when the move news came down.
You saw him.
Yeah, I saw a lot of Marcelo, and I don't think he tapped into his potential here. I think he kind of didn't live up to the expectations because I don't know if he put the effort in to get there. I think he's got a chance to be a good player, but I think this is going to be a wake-up call for him. And I'm just shocked that Marcelo Meyer, 4th pick in the draft, is traded for a reliever. So it also shows that Craig Breslow was willing to give this type of potential talent up just to fill a need, which is,
well, as I said,
back to your point, they want to win.
Yeah, I mean, I said this is a microcosm. We can talk about Rutschman. We can talk about all these other moves. It comes back to their goal that they know what is ahead of them. They know what they have here, and it's a World Series contending team. And that's how they approach this deadline. And across the board, it was uncomfortable. Yes, Marcelo Meyer wasn't what they had hoped, but still, JP, like trading away a guy like that with that talent, it's uncomfortable for anything, especially when you know that you potentially put him in another deal down the road.
All right, the big move of the day, the acquisition of the catcher Adley Rutschman. A package goes back. Some say too much if you look at prospect capital, but Red Sox fans right now rejoicing over a 3-time All-Star coming who can add offense and is good behind the plate. Here was our coverage on the trade deadline special and 310 to Left as we look at the news of Rutschman coming to Boston.
You get a guy who is a little bit banged up, but when healthy, is a very, very good player. And not only do you have him for the rest of this year, for the pennant drive, you also have him for next year.
Is it too much to pay?
No, I never say it's too much to pay because I'll come back to what they were saying since November. Our goal is to be a World Series team. That you need to make World Series moves at this time of year. You had earned the right to do that. That clubhouse had earned the right to actually add those type of players. So this is a World Series or bust type of move. And this is as JP knows, man, this is the cost of doing business. It is what it is. I don't want to get caught up in wins and losses of trades because how many times, even the biggest trades that we've seen, the Chris Sale trade, whatever, we say, oh, well, you can't give that up. And then 4 years later, oh, well, it was definitely worth it. I think that for the way that this team is constructed, guys, what you needed was this sort of personality, this sort of presence, this sort of message. And by the way, you got a great potential mustache in Jake Rogers as well. So,
which I'm sure was the finalizing part of the deal to get this done. There had been reports that it was 5 players going in return. It's 4 players plus a player to be named later. There was a long period from the early reports that this was happening, and I had been told that they were close to getting it done. a long stretch until it got done. He's on the injured list right now. It's a wrist issue. There's talk that the medical slowed things down. How concerned were you when you were looking at a guy that you're trying to add for this stretch run, but he's on the IL?
Well, this is when your team doctors now become a big part of the decisions you make. And obviously you have to get assurance from them that this is something he's going to be able to come back from. It's not anything major, and hopefully he comes back from it really quick. So I have to lean on my doctors. None of us went to medical school. That's the one time that they jump in and they become part of the team.
You know, and we go back to 2021, where the Red Sox acquired Kyle Schwarber, and he had a hamstring injury, didn't play for about a month. They had to get some assurance, hey, listen, this isn't going to be something that's going to linger through September and into October. Now, the difference is, you know, I would feel a whole lot better if it was a hamstring instead of a wrist.
Right.
But at the same time, to your point, JP, this is the Red Sox medical staff is part of this deal. The Red Sox medical staff has been part of this season. Woo. Let's be honest with you.
No doubt about that.
There was a lot of pressure there coming back to when they agreed to this, which is seemingly early in the day. All of a sudden, the pressure came on this group of people who have already come under the microscope in this season.
You mentioned Schwarber, and I think that's a great comp to bring up, right? Because for 2-3 weeks after that trade, people were getting frustrated. You got a guy, is he ever going to play for this team?
Right.
And he wound up being exactly what that team needed. They went from nowhere to 2 wins away from a World Series. Can Rutschman have that kind of impact with the team?
Well, no offense to Wong and Narvaez, but he's a major upgrade. This is a perennial all-star. When this guy's healthy, he's a really, really good player. You can bat him in different parts of that lineup. He's a switch hitter. He brings a lot of flexibility to the lineup. I think it's a great move by the Red Sox, and I think, look, you're either in it to win it or you're not. And this was a step that they say we're trying to win this thing.
If you don't know Adley Rutschman, first pick overall, obviously a 3-time All-Star. As we said earlier, a switch hitter. Now in his 5th season, again, 3 of those were All-Star seasons, including this year. He went to the All-Star game this year for his 3rd All-Star appearance. It's a few years removed from his Silver Slugger award. He was in the Home Run Derby there as well. But again, another adult in the room, right?
Yeah.
We've been talking about that. You've seen what Contreras has done, the impact he's had with this young team. You're going to have another guy who's been to the playoffs, who knows what it's like to get over the finish line.
Yeah, and I would be remiss if I did not quote a great man who said, worry about what you're getting and not what you're giving up. Great man sitting right here.
That's beautiful.
But it's true. What you're getting is exactly that, TC. Not only a good player, a useful player, but a guy who is an adult in the room, who is a leader. All you have to do is watch Adley Rutschman when a pitcher finishes his half inning. What he does routinely is runs and greets him at the baseline. And I've always found that fascinating. That's like, okay, you know what? Let's revisit what exactly just happened. And there is so many elements of this. Obviously, he's a talented offensive player who can get on a run and can hit home runs, all of what they need. But I think that you hit the nail on the head. They still needed guys who understood what it took to get through a major league season. I think this guy does.
When you talk about this guy coming into this team, we've talked about, is it tough to make a trade within the division? Clearly, the Orioles didn't mind. In fact, at the beginning of the day, everybody you heard that was in on Rutschman was an American League. It was the Yankees, it was the Red Sox, it was the Rays. You see his numbers this season with Baltimore in the 67 games, played 90 games. The injuries are a concern, and we'll get to that in a moment. But what is his knowledge of the American League East do as a catcher? How much of an advantage is that for the Red Sox?
Well, I think it's obviously a big advantage because he knows what it's like to play in Yankee Stadium. He knows where it is to get beat in Yankee Stadium. He knows what, obviously Boston, now he's on that side. But you also have to remember that Baltimore's pitching staff was not very good. He's inheriting a really good pitching staff. The young guys are going to lean on him. I think it's a big, big plus for those young guys. And I'm just fooling around here writing down the lineup. And I look at him in the middle of that lineup. compared to, no offense, to Wong and to Narvaez. He just lengthens the lineup with a lot more pop, a lot more credibility. That's a good-looking lineup.
He's got 16 games as a DH this year. He's got DH experience. Could that be a fit for him to get him in a little more here?
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, you want to get to the guy to the finish line. I mean, this is a big part of this, is that even if when he comes back from this wrist injury, if you have to take a little bit longer, you mentioned Schwarber. People should remember this. They lost. I mean, they lost a bunch, and everyone's like, oh, this is what you did? You got Hansel Robles and Big Fudge Austin Davis? But next thing you know, he becomes an iconic figure. And I do want to come back to the American League East thing, because you should understand how important it is familiarity, and JP knows this. You did the deal with Taboni, obviously familiar with him. Mike Elias and Craig Breslow played together at Yale. They are legit friends. They are former college teammates. And I think to do something like that, to understand each other, their language, they're talking. Elias, when they're at spring training, they're hanging in the same suite. Again, you would know better than I, but I think that goes a long way to find those guys in the game that you feel comfortable with.
Well, I think that's a really good point, because familiarity sometimes allows you to be able to make those trades. But in fairness to the Red Sox, you got to take your hat off to their scouting and their player development, because without them, they don't have the people to make this trade. And I don't care how familiar you are with anybody. If you don't have players, the other guy's not going to make a trade with you. So the scouts and the player development, people deserve a tip of the cap.
Can we also just pump the brakes, as you like to say, and stop on how much they gave up? As you said, forget about who you gave up. This is what the Red Sox used to do.
It's the cost of doing business.
But they haven't been like this in a while, right? You haven't seen them. And you could say, it was Connolly early too much to give up for Curtis Meade. Maybe, but I'd rather have a team that is in the hunt and is willing to give up trade capital, prospect capital, to get a guy that puts them over the edge. That means they're trying to win now. I've had enough of prospect rankings. I want parades.
I love it. I love it. You know, the one thing I think we've gotten away from in our game, nobody talks about winning. And that's what this trade is all about. It's about winning. The players have earned the right to put themselves in the position. The front office has done a great job of complimenting them, and they're trying to win. It's refreshing. Instead of hearing process and asset acquisitions, it's just a great, great baseball move.
You know, what's good for business, and the team that you just played is the best example, is winning the World Series or even being in the World Series. That's what's best for business. And when people can get their head around that, that's when you understand, okay, this is how you make deals like this. And I agree with you about the development of these guys. Let's not forget, we can talk about Anthony Ianson now, but he was a third-round pick. Like, good for them for identifying him, developing him, getting him at peak performance when everyone's like, oh my goodness, this guy's throwing 100. And then you also draft a guy in the first round, which in Kyson Witherspoon, that people actually want.
And you know what people don't realize, Rob, is part of drafting players is having them for the ability to trade them. And that's what they've done. I think and you just saw the Blue Jays do that with their
As long as you have the faith that you can continue to draft and develop behind them.
Braden Montgomery, another example. Now you have, look at the first round picks they've had, that they've traded. Kyle Teal, Braden Montgomery, Kyson Witherspoon. It's okay, because you know where you've landed? You've landed as potentially the best team in the American League with a legitimate chance to be in the World Series.
All right, so let's talk about the pitchers they gave up. Did they give up too much? Ianson was their top pitching prospect, the Red Sox. Witherspoon, their second-ranked pitching prospect. So you've given up your top two pitching prospects. What is Baltimore getting?
Well, they are legitimately getting two guys who could be in the rotation, maybe even next year, at some point next year. Now, I will say this. I do think that they maybe are selling high on Ianson, because Ianson got all kind of buzz early in the year when you had the prospect game and he threw 100. Then he just kept dominating. He gets moved up to Portland, does really, really well there. But talking to a scout who just saw him the other day, maybe hit a little bit of the wall. Not to say that he's not going to be a major league rotation guy, but maybe not, the truth is always somewhere in the middle here. He's not going to be throwing 100. He was sitting between 93 and 95. And then Kyson Witherspoon is a guy who, there's a reason why you're drafted in the first round. Even though he got off to a slow start, everyone understands like the potential that they have. So, yeah, I mean, I think Baltimore did really, really well here.
He did start off struggling, Witherspoon. locked in, but now seems to have gotten it together. And again, first-year pro, there's only so much you can read into because these teams now will get them. Like last year, he never pitched in a game. They worked with him. They tinkered with him. They want to get more velocity out of these guys. So it's hard to look at early results for a pitching prospect.
Yeah, and Baltimore's in a position where they have no pitching in their system, so it's easy for them to go out and take chances on prospects because it's all upside guys for them. And this is exactly what they have to do to replenish their system. I like the arms. I like what I see. I see a lot of Josiah Gray from
the Reds, or the Nationals.
With Ierson, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I see a lot of comparison, both body-wise and delivery-wise. But look, they don't all pan out.
No.
You know, they don't all pan, especially pitchers. You're talking about setbacks. You're talking about not making adjustments. You're hoping they go up the ladder and do everything you want them to do, but they're going to hit a bump in the road, and this is why you have the prospects.
It's the thing, the Dombrowski thing, and he did it again, you know, in this Luis Arraez trade. It was going to be brought up again, where he gave up somebody who everybody in baseball really, really liked. But if you go through Dombrowski, even last year with Duran, getting the reliever in Duran, like, okay, Mick Abel might be a good starter, but is he going to impact what the Phillies are doing right now? And that's the challenge. Is it going to impact you winning? And for the Red Sox, even with Crochet on the shelf, and even with Braden Montgomery and Kyle Teal and Chase Mydroth doing well, listen, like, you're going to live without those guys.
Yeah, they gave up a lot for Crochet prior to last year, but they don't make the playoffs without Crochet last year. And again, he's injured right now. But you've got him, you locked him up. Maybe they extend the Rutschman here as they get him. But the point is, you would do that. I would do that Crochet deal 10 out of 10 times. And you know you gave up good players. They're going to be good players, but you got Garrett Crochet.
You need major league players. You need good major league players to win. You need talent plays in the big leagues. It's not just acquiring players, it's acquiring talent. I remember a bunch of years ago, I went to see the Bundy kid that went #1 with the Orioles.
Bundy, yeah.
I have never seen a better free agent pitcher than that kid. Mediocre big league career, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's nothing against the kid, just a lot of setbacks along the way, and sometimes you just don't know how they're going to pan out. I hope both these guys pitch 10 years in the big leagues, but you got a quality major league player.
And to come back to what we said, seemingly a perfect fit for what you need. And not only position, not only in offensive profile, but in terms of the message and the image and the personality of what this group, this collection, seemingly needs.
All right, what does this mean to the catching situation now? A year ago, Narvaez was 6th in the Rookie of the Year voting, a Gold Glove candidate, you know, not far off in the catching. Connor Wong had a down year last year, but now you see him hitting again. The hands are back. He had both hands were a mess last year. So how much does Connor Wong get to be a part of this now with Rutschman coming?
Not a lot. There's a reason they got Adley Rutschman, but Connor Wong, in a world of this world of baseball right now, catching is really, really thin. I mean, it's super thin, and this is why everyone was obsessing over, you know, Liam Hendricks, who went to Tampa Bay, and why the Yankees were obsessing over Adley Rutschman or finding a cat, Hunter Goodman, how much it was going to cost to get him. So Connor Wong has drawn interest from different teams. And who knows? I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe Connor Wong, they just got Jake Rogers. Who knows if he's going to be part of a deal? I don't know. But I know that Connor Wong is a valuable guy, not only the Red Sox, but if they do decide to move on from him, you know, teams want him. I mean, there's a reason. He's not going to be, and no doubt about it, starter, but he's a legitimate major leaguer.
3:10 to left is presented by your New England Ford dealers who've been taking everyone out to the ball game at Fenway Park for decades. Catch Ford next time you're at Fenway, including in the Ford Clubhouse, a full-service bar perfect for bringing your lineup together and for recording our live edition of 3:10 to left. It's all brought to you by your New England Ford dealers and F-Series, America's best-selling trucks for 48 years and the official truck of the Boston Red Sox. We welcome you back to 3:10 to left, presented by your New England Ford dealers. Craig Breslow certainly had his most successful trade deadline yet as Chief Baseball Officer of the Red Sox. Made the deal with Curtis Mead, and even though he suffered a fracture in his wrist after getting hit by a pitch, just his second plate appearance, it was a clear mark that moving Connolly early, the Red Sox were making it clear that they were going for it this year, and boy, did they ever. Adley Rutschman, the big fish, but one of 3 deals on trade deadline Monday. Craig Breslow spoke with the media about what the Red Sox accomplished.
In Adley, you get impact on both sides of the ball. He's a premium defender, switch hitter. So he's a great fit for our park. He doesn't strike out. He walks and gets on base. He can hit for damage. I think there's a ton to like about him.
Greg, do today's trades and the one you made last weekend, did they reflect a sort of shift in philosophy of being a little more aggressive and, quote, going for it this year rather than maybe what you've espoused the last couple of years of more sustainability and integrating prospects into the major league roster?
Probably not for me to characterize our approach outside of saying that over the last month and a half or so, this team has demonstrated just an incredible resilience and relentlessness, and put itself, kind of firmly in the playoff picture. And they deserved, and our fans deserve, our efforts, the efforts from the front office to try and find ways to make it better. And I don't think that necessarily has to exist in conflict or compete with sustainability. And I think when you look at the control that a lot of the guys had that we brought in, you can see a core of players that should be here for many years into the future.
If I could have a quick follow-up, Craig, was any of this motivated by looking at the American League in terms of competitiveness and seeing a rather wide open field where there was an opportunity for the team to make a deep run despite starting the season slowly?
The competitive environment it's part of the equation in that there are years where this record could be leading our division. There are years where we could be firmly out of the playoff picture. So I guess, like, implicitly it's part of the way that we approach this. But I think more it's just the way that these guys have played, the job that they've done on the field, the coaching staff, the way the fans have supported this team and the turnaround. We felt going into the season like we had a really competitive team. We are seeing it over the last month and a half, and we wanted to do everything that we could to give ourselves the best chance to go out and compete for a World Series.
Craig, as you went into this, did you see catching as the position you most wanted to improve, and was Adley your focus of this?
We went in with maybe casting a broad net over a few different ways that we could get better. I have found it's really difficult to try to predict the market or try to predict exactly what players will be available, especially this year when there are a lot of teams that still have playoff aspirations. So a lot of the work over the days leading up to today was just having incessant conversations with other teams, and just trying to understand what players might be available, what the costs might be, the way that those impact our club. But I do think this year our strategy was more about targeting players that met our needs and allowed us to upgrade areas that we felt like could be upgraded, and going out and targeting them and trying to be aggressive and bringing them in, as opposed to kind of sitting back and waiting for the market to come to us.
Hey, Craig, I'm wondering
about the Adley injury and a potential timetable for return.
Sorry, I think I missed the beginning of that, Chris.
Just about Adley's injury, where things stand, when you guys can expect him back, and I guess the plan for him the next few days.
Yeah, I talked to him earlier today, and at this point, like, I am not going to try to put a timetable on what his return might look like. I think it's best for him to kind of get under our care, and get our athletics, our medical staff, our athletic trainers, our doctors, hands on him, and from there we'll figure out what the right kind of course of action is here. But in talking to him, he's very optimistic, and he is saying that he feels quite a bit better.
Craig, I'm just wondering, as your negotiations with the Orioles neared completion and and it was almost done. What were the deliberations like with you and your front office, you and ownership, about whether to make this jump and finalize it, getting that player and at that cost and making that final decision?
Sure. I think what maybe as a group we tried to do was not react to kind of the final stages of negotiations or the final costs, but rather understand which players might provide upgrades, which players would be available, talk through kind of where we thought this was going to go, what our kind of tolerances were, keep ownership informed every step of the way so that this didn't all come down to the final moment or the last turn of the screw. And I will say that like at this time of year when you are trying to improve your team, there are not deals that are comfortable. You don't draw a line and say this is as far as we'll go, and that's kind of there's a bit of like a moving target, and you try to remain as disciplined as you can, but I think you have to constantly zoom out to remind yourself that like what you're trying to do is improve your major league team in this season.
And just to follow up, was it helpful for you guys to finish the Rutschman deal, quote unquote, early and leave you more time to, pursue other things and also consummate two other trades?
Yeah, I think every person who sits in my chair says, this will be the trade deadline where we'll get deals done early, we'll be aggressive, and it seems just kind of like inevitably things go down to the wire. But yeah, being able to work through that earlier in the day did give us both clarity on that situation and the catching situation more broadly, and then also the opportunity to look elsewhere at other ways to improve the team.
Craig, when it comes to Adley's wrist injury, is there any concern there on your part? A and B, obviously with next year being the last year of his deal, is there an impetus to begin negotiations with him at this point in time?
Yeah, like I said, the first things that we need to do are to get him here, get him comfortable with our medical staff, make sure that transition of care is as smooth as possible. And then from there, we'll figure out, exactly what the future looks like. But we want to get him as comfortable as possible. We want to get to know him and give him a chance to get to know us.
Greg, so Marcelo Meyer has been obviously a big part of this organization, in the future for a long time. So what kind of went into the decision to trade him today? And what do you hope to see from Eric now that you have him on board?
Yeah, it was tough to include him in a deal, and it's tough to include any of the players that we had sent out because we have relationships with them. We've watched their development. In many cases, we've drafted them or signed them internationally. And speaking about Marcelo, he's a really big part of this, or he was a really big part of this organization, and someone that was looked upon to be part of a core. And I still think that's going to happen. It's going to happen with the San Francisco Giants at this point. But he's an incredibly talented player. And what we saw was an opportunity to get a back end reliever with control who throws from the left side with huge stuff, generates a ton of swings and misses, and gets a ton of strikeouts. And as you think about a bullpen down the stretch and in potentially into the postseason, the ability to bring guys in who can get swings and misses and shorten the game when relievers are available almost every night because of the schedule becomes really, really valuable.
Greg, how did you see? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Just along those lines with Meyer, you had acquired last week Curtis Mead, infielder, and had been according to multiple people, in on a lot of other shortstops in the league. I'm just curious what that says about what you thought about Meyer's future here, and just knowing, and also with the rise of Franklin Arias, right, in AAA, of kind of how that affected everything in negotiations with him.
Yeah, I think it's important to separate what Marcelo's future with the organization would have been if he were still here from decisions that we would make in the short term. Marcelo was obviously recovering from an injury and not on the field right now. But like I said, I still think he is an incredibly talented player, and he's going to have a very successful major league career. This is something that made sense, in our minds, and something that made sense, I assume, for the Giants. And so we were able to make a trade, but in no way is this an indictment of Marcelo. And I think in some ways it's probably a credit to the player development group and the organization that we were able to make this trade and still feel like we've got players in-house or who are able to fill a major league shortstop role.
All right, we'll be hearing more from Craig Breslow. He'll be joining us on the pregame show tonight on NESN, but we'll take a break, come back, and take a look at what some of the other contenders did. The American League East, you got at least 3 teams that have loaded up and are ready for a stretch run. Should be a lot of fun as the Red Sox, Yankees, and Rays all tried to go for it on trade deadline Monday. We'll have a recap coming up next. Welcome back to 310 to Left, presented by your New England Ford dealers. The Red Sox weren't the only team going all in for this year at the trade deadline. In fact, they weren't the only team in the American League East going all in. The Yankees, Rays, and Red Sox all making moves to bolster their playoff hopes. Yankees adding power, Rays adding pitching and catching help, and now it should be an intriguing 3-horse race in the American League East. In our trade deadline coverage, we took a look at what the AL East contenders did. The Yankees think they're going to load up when guys come back from the IL. They think they've got the power waiting if they can get Judge back, if they get Bellinger back, and I don't know about Stanton, but if they get him back as well. So it's going to be really interesting down the stretch in this division.
Throughout this year, we've spent so much time thinking about how mediocre the American League is, and I think that's been a very fair criticism. But now we get to see the flip side of it, which is that everyone thinks that they have a chance to win the pennant. And so you do have teams that had a heck of an incentive to be able to be active at the trade deadline, and thus this is a good deadline, right? We're seeing all-stars moving. We're seeing batting title winners. We're seeing Cy Young winners. We're seeing other guys who are like Gossman, who are top 3 Cy Young guys. This is a good one.
Oh, and it started early. I mean, this is like we said. We just sat here even last year. Other than the Joe Ryan social media graphic,
we thank Fox Sports for that 30 seconds of joy.
Man, that was a flurry. My heart rate went through the roof for those 30 seconds. But then it was like the sad trombone of Dustin May. No offense to Dustin May, but I'm like, this has been totally different. And as I said, like there's been so many moves, but not only so many moves, but I guess from the Red Sox perspective, so many more impactful moves than I don't know. When the last time have we seen the Red Sox have this many trade deadline moves of this caliber?
It's been a while.
18 Eovaldi and Steve Pearce, I would say this one over that. 21 Schwarber and the relievers, I would say this one over that. It's been a long, long time.
Got to interrupt you here because we have the countdown. 5 seconds remaining. It's like the ball dropping in Times Square.
The fax machine isn't
Pencils
working.
down. Fax machines are jamming across baseball as we speak. You got something? You get your phone up.
Just checking. We'll see in the next 5 minutes.
Again, the annual reminder that 4 o'clock or 6 o'clock in this case, I still think 4 o'clock. 6 o'clock does not mean all the news has come in. It just means the deal has to be consummated.
I also think that you have until 6 o'clock and 59 seconds. I could be wrong about that.
Is that right?
They're making rules up now. I don't know.
If that's true, that would be the first time we've had that.
I know that used to be the case for the draft.
You had the
deadline.
full minute.
Yeah, you had
that.
Well,
minute.
I mean, in fairness,
can you give us 54 seconds back on the clock, please?
This is the first time that we've been sitting here on August 3rd actually talking about trade deadline instead of reminiscing about how they didn't do anything for the last couple of days.
Also, it's usually July 31st. Right. So there's also, I thought that's where you were going. I'd like to thank Major League Baseball, by the way. Doesn't matter now, he's 30, but my son's birthday is July 31st. They traded Nomar on his birthday, traded Manny on his birthday. Who are they trading on my birthday today, Dad? So August 3rd, you can do whatever you want, Craig Breslow. We will see if he did anything else. We look at what the big moves today will mean to the American League East. So here you go. And this is leading up to what we know at this point. Freddie Peralta, Liam Hicks, the catcher, Tyler Wells, lefty, they get from the Orioles. So the Rays, who have the best record in the American League, feel they have improved themselves today. The Yankees get Luis Garcia Jr. from Washington and Camilo Doval from Pittsburgh. And then the Orioles, we know what they've shipped off. They are in sell mode, and the Red Sox making their moves. Blue Jays, they get Soriano, but then they deal away Gausman and Varsho, so kind of straddling the fence a little bit there.
Yeah, and I think they're acquiring pitching to set themselves up for next year, so they move
controllable arms.
Right, controllable arms.
Varsho makes the move. We'll always remember that center field catch when he fell and still got the glove out on it. But again, a team that was so close to winning it all last year. You see how quickly fortunes can change.
I mean, Hoffman goes to Minnesota, and Gausman is a guy, I'll say here, I'm probably going to be wrong, but I'll say here, I would not be surprised if he is the best starting pitching acquisition. He's going to the Cubs. Always loved his mentality. Obviously, what he did in Toronto speaks for itself. But in this world of trying to get starting pitchers who can pitch in the postseason, meaningful postseason games, I think that was an underrated move by the Cubs.
Yeah, a lot of teams really, you could tell who was building up depth, and you could tell who was going for the home run to try to put themselves over the top. Obviously, Skubal was a major move. I like this move right here, and I like the Rutschman move.
You know, and also you look at the Skubal move and what that did for the Dodgers. And nobody talks about the Dodgers because we just assume, but they went out and then they got even more pitching today, which is sort of unbelievable. But all these moves, that they don't have to get relievers because they just keep moving starters into the bullpen. That's what they did last year. That was the plan. That is the blueprint.
Just an FYI, the Meyer for Miller deal did indeed get done, and there's also a minor league player, I don't know who, coming back to the Red Sox in that one. No other buzzer beaters.
From the Red Sox?
From the Red Sox.
Okay, there you go. Well, the Red Sox made plenty of moves today. They were busy. If that's all they did, that's quite a bit, though. You came into the day saying, but everybody had the same idea, right? Catcher or shortstop. One of those two spots is a place you could add offense. They've certainly done that with Rutschman.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that they were able to hold on to Arias and did not move him. I would have only moved him if it was something major. I like the fact that they were able to hold on to him. Don't be surprised if he's not up here in September at some point.
I mean, careful. All I can think of is Yohan Moncada. I'm sorry. Like every time I think about calling up a guy.
Totally different player.
I know.
Totally different
But I'm
player.
scarred by the Yohan Moncada era.
You got to move on.
Yeah, sorry.
So there you go. Reporting now that the Red Sox have no other moves at the Meyer for Miller deal, plus another.
Carlos Gutierrez is the minor leaguer.
Carlos Gutierrez is the minor leaguer coming back.
Yes, to the Red Sox.
So 2 for 1 on that deal. Meyer goes to San Francisco for Miller and Gutierrez. No other deals for the Red Sox expected to be announced now that the deadline has come and gone. So we sort of put things into perspective. Here's what the Red Sox competition did, beginning with the Yankees. They get Luis Garcia Jr., and you see what they gave away for that. A little bit of infield help there. Did you think the Yankees would do more today, JP?
I like what the Yankees did. Their pitching is their strength. They need to supplement the missing offense that they have, without Judge and with all the other guys being hurt. I like Garcia a lot. I like Helio Ramos, I believe they also acquired today. So I like what the Yankees did.
Luis Garcia Jr., a .560 slugging percentage, is best in the National League. He gives a little more pop to a team that, when healthy, has a lot of it.
Well, when you saw the Yankees without Judge, it was a totally different team because obviously you have guys Ben Rice coming back down, really coming back down to earth, and they couldn't score runs. And now you're going to get Judge back. You got this guy. Oh my God! You look at that swing, and I'm just thinking Yankee Stadium.
Yankee Stadium.
I'm just
My
thinking,
goodness.
oh my goodness.
Oscar Gamble.
Yeah.
A couple check swings might leave the yard at Yankee Stadium.
So it's funny because everyone's saying their priority was catching, and getting their starters back. I'll say it again. This is awesome. Like the Rays, Red Sox, Yankees dynamic now. Like, let's go.
You know what I really liked about this trading deadline? I don't know if you guys agree with me or not. The teams that have a chance to see the big picture have all made moves to get themselves to and through October. That's how I saw it.
Yeah, there's an importance that's attached to getting the bye, right? Teams are competing for for best record in the division or in the American League. And then, yes, there is a determined approach, right? Which is part of the reason why you make a move like Marcelo Meyer for Eric Miller, because you want power arm after power arm after power arm coming out of the bullpen come October.
And TC made a really good point. You know, you can't
Good job, Tom.
Thank you.
You can't do anything in August anymore, right? So that's why I think you saw a lot of these minor moves where teams built some depth to get them to that point.
Well, that's the thing, right? What we talk about, they need power, and you'd like to see more depth in that bullpen. He's also controllable for 3 years. I mean, so you can pencil him in to your bullpen for a while to come if all goes well.
Right, and what if Tyron Guerrero gets injured, right? Like, you know, you wish, like, they have to protect themselves because they don't have, and JP, you would know this better than the rest of us, I don't think there's another late innings arm that's coming out of, that's coming from the White Sox who you would really trust.
No one I would
end.
trust.
Right.
Someone I would try, but no one I would trust. You're getting it to the point in the season where trying, forget it. We're not doing it.
And you thought if there was an arm that was going to come up and help, it'd be Uberstein.
I thought Uberstein because
no longer an option.
he would protect the younger kids
Right.
and be able to lengthen out, but he's gone.
How big a concern is that now? I know we've talked a lot about Tolley's innings. We're going to be talking about Bennett's innings, and I know they believe that they can manage this, but you've got to manage it. They're going to have to be careful with those inning totals.
I'm a little skeptical about the idea of how much you manage the young pitchers because we saw teams trying for years to manage it and it didn't work, right? Like pitcher health was not achieved. And in fact, we've seen the opposite case where if you have a big, strong dude, remember like 2008 when John Lester obviously had been limited in his innings total because he had been recovering from cancer the previous year, right? Like he had been working back, regaining strength, and the Red Sox bumped up his innings by like 100 in 2008, and he never looked back. He was able to shoulder the load. So I do think, JP, you have great experience with this. The game-to-game strength monitoring, seeing how pitchers are able to physically recover, if they are remaining strong in response to those individual outings, then I don't know that you fear the invisible cliff in the same way that you once did.
It's exactly like you said. There's been no proven point that you can't extend a guy, push a guy. I think it comes down to A, what's their physical condition? B, are they grinding out games? If they're struggling to get to the fifth, but you watch Bennett, he's like in a rocking chair every time he's out there. There's no reason why he can't throw 150 innings. You know, we brought Hudson, Mulder, and Zito to the big leagues. We never babied them. We pushed them, and they gave us 200 innings every year. I think you have the same capabilities with the Red Sox.
Let me give a caveat to that. They were raised a different way. These guys are, you can hook them up to all the machines and test them all the live long day. But the fact of the matter is that they are not ingrained like they have been to push. And so we don't.
But I will say this.
Yeah.
Tolley is a big physical guy.
Sure.
Right?
But you know what I've also seen, not to interrupt you, but what I've seen with Tolley also is that he empties his tank. And I mean, this is in-game stuff. He empties his tank and then he sort of goes the other way. I think he's gotten better at that.
Yeah.
But I keep thinking along those lines, the bigger picture. I don't know. Like all I know is that the cliff is a very real thing for even veteran pitchers. I go back to Sean Manaea a couple of years ago, where you see he hit 200 innings. Like it was almost in the game, and he just fell off the cliff.
Yeah.
So I don't know how they fix it, but I do think Bayo becomes a big part of this equation.
All right, now the Chicago White Sox come to town as the Red Sox, that is, open up a homestand against that Chicago team, and also the Athletics just a week after taking 3 out of 4 from them at Sacramento. But now it'll be at Fenway, a ballpark that should be buzzing after the acquisitions and the increased effort in going for it this year. The stretch race begins at Fenway Park this week. We'll come back with a little preview as 3:10 to left, presented by your New England Ford dealers, continues after this. 3:10 to left is presented by your New England Ford dealers, who've been taking everyone out to the ball game at Fenway Park for decades. Catch Ford next time you're at Fenway, including in the Ford Clubhouse, a full-service bar perfect for bringing your lineup together and for recording our live edition of 3:10 to left. It's all brought to you by your New England Ford dealers and F-Series, America's best-selling trucks for 48 years and the official truck of the Boston Red Sox. Welcome back as we wrap things up here on 310 to Left, presented by New England Ford Dealers. So that's all behind us now. The trade deadline has come and gone. Now you get to work when you're a contending team. How much energy is there when this club shows up and begins the series with the White Sox, knowing that this organization has declared we're going for it? We think this team can win.
I think that clubhouse is going to be jumping up and down and ready to go. I mean, you're coming home, you're coming off a great trip, you swept the Dodgers. Now you're adding Rutschman, you're adding Miller, you're adding some other pieces. I think there's just going to be euphoric and ready to just say, hey, let's play these last 2 months and we've got more support coming. Why? How could you not be uplifted by this?
And think about their breaks that they've had, and go back to when they came in the All-Star break, and everyone's saying, "Oh, didn't you want to keep the momentum going?" And Chad Tracy said, "No, no, no, no. It took a lot of energy to get here. We need this break," and he was dead on because they used it. They took off. Now you have this day off. You have new guys come in. You have the pat on the back from the front office. It's here we go. It's like this is. Now it becomes the time where they can legitimately say, not only in the playoffs, but contending for the division as well.
Wait till the guys show up at 2 o'clock and there's nobody there because the show and go Sox don't get there till 5. They'll have to figure that part out. But the White Sox are a legitimate test. They've got the biggest lead of any team in the American League right now in their division. The Red Sox sweep in Chicago was kind of an overlooked but important part of this whole thing.
Yeah, and it's sort of turned the tables where the Red Sox went into Dodger Stadium, and there's clear, like, this is our test. We're going to prove to them that we belong. The White Sox, I'm going to feel like they're coming in and feeling that same sort of thing. All right, Red Sox, you caught us in a bad time. You did something that nobody else had done and beat us at home. But now we're going to show that we're the resilient group and we belong. And it's going to be a great series.
That's a young team, right? We talk about young prospects who come together. They've come together quickly in Chicago. They went out and spent money and capital and prospect capital to get Luis Castillo. That's a sign for that clubhouse. They're going to be buzzing too.
Well, and if you think about the White Sox, they've been down for so long. Ownership has really not allowed them to do a lot of things. They kind of rebuilt. Getz, the new GM, has kind of taken over and built it from scratch, had the big Crochet trade, and I think they've built on that. They might even be a little further ahead than they thought, but I agree with Rob. They did not play well. They hit them at the right time in Chicago. They got a lot to prove, and they want to show that they can beat good teams because that's what they're going to face in the playoffs.
First homestand of August. First homestand since the one that saw the 15-game winning streak then come to an end. Then they take 2 out of 3 at Toronto. We felt a different vibe over the course of that homestand, and you've got to think Fenway Park's going to be buzzing this week.
Yeah, this isn't easing into anything. This isn't relying on a nice night or the Tartan Army or anything like that. Like this is people showing up and understanding that your baseball team is one of the best baseball teams in the most important months, and I think that's what's going to get people excited. That this is. We started to see it. Like we talked about this in the studio at Fenway. You look around that whole park. Those last couple games, it was just different. Now it's going to be even more different.
And they're there for baseball, not just for the Fenway experience.
No.
They're not just enjoying the Fenway experience. It's back to baseball.
The buzz is back. Everywhere you go, people are talking about the Red Sox. And it's been fun to listen to people that excited. And like you said, they're coming back home. And I think the place is going to be jumping.
All right, all said and done, the dust is settled. Give a grade to the Red Sox and Craig Breslow.
I would give Craig and the Red Sox organization a very, very strong B, maybe even a B+.
Exceed what you expected him to do?
I never thought they'd get a frontline catcher. I never thought they'd get a frontline. I'm glad they did. I was hoping they did. But, you know, you go in with these expectations, and sometimes the best laid plans don't work out. But they pulled it off. They had a really good get in Rutschman. They supported around them. So a lot that they should feel good about. And don't forget your player development scouting. They put you in a position to make that trade.
All right, Professor Bradford.
I'm right there with the simpatico here. I B, maybe even a B+. The only reason I don't give a definite B+ is because you didn't protect yourself in terms of starting rotation and potentially at shortstop. Those two things. Right now they're okay, but it's all about what you're going to do when the rubber meets the road in October. But and you ask, did you think that this would happen? If you said that they were going to get Adley Rutschman for that package, I would have said no way. Number one, I didn't think you could get Adley Rutschman. Number two, I didn't think that they would get that uncomfortable in trading those guys.
I didn't think they'd give up that much to get something. They made it a clear priority to get talent, to add to it. It hasn't happened the last few years at the deadline. And if you include Meade, I'm giving them a solid B+. maybe A-.
I wish I had you in class.
It's like right on the curve. You'll be all right. But if you get Mead back at the end of this,
Yeah,
again, that's a
you're
guy
right. I
that's
think it's a
talking
good
about
point.
who adds power. It's a whole different lineup if Mead and Rutschman are joining this team for the end of September and into the playoffs. But the last few years, the complaint with Red Sox fans is they didn't do enough at the deadline. You can't complain about that now. You want to complain about prospects going? Complain to someone else, because as I said, I'll say it again. Parades are better than prospect rankings.
No, there is not going to be one player in that clubhouse that is going to say, woe is us, we did the wrong thing. And you can't say that about other deadlines. In fact, most of the deadlines have had that.
You felt it.
You absolutely felt it. This time, there's going to be an energy, there's going to be enthusiasm.
6 of the last 7 Augusts have had losing records, and that's in part because you didn't do anything to help the team over the finish line. They think they have. And we'll see, beginning with this 3-game set against the Chicago White Sox. For JP and Rob, a lot of coverage here over the last couple days on NESN. Thank you for watching 310 to Left, presented by your New England Ford dealers in F-Series, America's best-selling truck for 49 years and the official truck of the Boston Red Sox.